there could be a very interesting opportunity in silver. So first off, read this disclaimer carefully. Then do your good deed of the day by liking and subscribing. So silver is 28% away from the 52-week low, but it has recently pulled back 13%. And there are leveraged ways to trade silver. You do have this one. That's the AGQ, 2 times leveraged ETF. And you also have the bearish one, ZSL. In this case, I think there's a pretty interesting bullish opportunity. So let me just show you. Get the handy drawing tool. So the red line here is the 200-week moving average. It's a really big deal level, and we are testing it now. Corroborating the importance of the moving average, it's also been a very key resistance level. So it's been support level, it's been resistance. Also here you can see it was resistance. So in blue is where it's recently been support, pink resistance. It's worth a shot. You know, this is a situation where you can have a bit of a tight stop loss level. In this case, previous test almost 12%, and with like a 2 times leveraged ETF, then you can get some nice gains, and also you can get into the options market. The SLV is very liquid. Looking at the daily data points. So what is a bit problematic is that we have slipped below the 200-day moving average. And that is a key moving average. It just is. So that complicates things. Looking at RSI and PPO, we are not yet at like extreme buy levels. We are at an interesting level in terms of RSI, but when it comes to the purple 20-day PPO, you see that during previous pullbacks, we were basically at the current level. So 20-day PPO is pretty interesting. So in my notes, I will write 200 VMA support. That is the entry signal and also basically the stop loss level. Technicals, I think I will give the bulls a 5. I don't like that we lost the 200 daily moving average because it is a pretty important moving average, but the 200 week, it's recently been critical and motivated bulls to buy. Looking at the seasonality for silver here to the left, last 10 years in red, 5 years in green, and 7 years in blue. There usually is some bullish seasonality into mid-August, but then there is usually some weakness. Looking at the table view, we are at 8.6% loss so far for August. But that is one of the worst Augusts we have had. That you have to go back to 2022 and 2008 to find the only other times in this table when it was worse. So you could certainly make the case that we have had a lot of pullback already. Looking at 2008, September and October became bearish. Looking at 2022, then we did see some gains in September, October, November, and December. So quite mixed. When we look back at previous times where we had bad August. However, seasonality, given that we already have seen so much weakness, I think there's good reason to think that there could be some fight in the bulls. I will give them a 3 on the seasonality. It's interesting seasonality, but I wish it was a bit more. When it comes to the fundamental analysis, I use a different tool, which I cannot share online. But based on that, it basically warrants that for the bulls. There is value now in silver after the recent pullback. So when looking at relative performance, when people talk, about silver, SLV, usually compared, against gold. So let's get to the GLD. here. And then we will get the AGQ. AGQ, that's the ultra, silver, because so far leaning a bit bullish. So looking at weekly data points, long term, 2% positive correlation with S&P 500. So it's a pretty nice way to diversify your portfolio given the correlation. 1% with gold, that's not much. And then you do have minus 35% here with AGQ. Let me just double check here. Ultra silver, 93%. I've had some issues recently with this correlation tool. GLD, NYSE, ARCA. Okay, so 93% with AGQ on the weeklies, then 51% with the GLD. That makes more sense. Looking at the daily data points, 25% positive with S&P 500, 76% with the GLD, and 98% with AGQ. So AGQ, it gives you pretty good exposure to leveraged exposure to silver. So yeah, what happens with gold is going to have quite a bit of an effect on silver. So let's look at the GLD. GLD. Let's start here with the weeklies. A bit more problematic picture for gold. Don't like that. Approaching the 200 daily moving average in red. Certainly have a bit of a head and shoulders pattern. Let's look a bit at the seasonality. Usually see some strength here as well into mid-August, which could benefit us. 2.4% loss so far for August, but August usually is bullish for gold. September is pretty weak. Okay, so let's now compare silver and gold. So SLV, yes, against GLD, like that. Okay, we start with long term. So this is, the silver gold pair. We do see that we are at a horizontal support-ish level in this pair. Actually, when you go back here to 2008 October, this was like the perfect time to move into silver. And you really see that silver dramatically outperformed gold here, especially from 2010 into 2011. That was a very sharp outperformance. See, I think there's value here in this pair in favor of silver. Looking at the dailies, we are approaching RSI levels that are very interesting in this pair. We are not there yet, but pretty close. Looking at correlations, usually we do see silver actually underperform gold here into September. So far in August, we have 6.2% underperformance from silver, which is on the higher end of the spectrum. So it could be that a lot of the bad stuff is priced in. September is, though, not a month where we usually see silver outperform. So in this case, the relative performance becomes a bit messy because looking at the technicals, it looks favorable for silver versus gold. But the seasonality did suggest that there might actually be more weakness from silver. So splitting those, I will give a 2 here in favor of the bulls on relative performance. We end up with 3.5 here in favor of the bulls. Now we are at 200 weekly moving average support. So let's look a bit here. SLV. So as long as this support level holds, I think, I would be bullish. But let's look a bit at what kind of stop loss level we would have to operate with. So yeah, if you go with like a 1.5% stop loss level, it's a bit aggressive, but that would mean a 3% stop loss for the leveraged ETF. Yeah, think that's because you have to put your stop losses someplace. Let's just compare it with this here. In this case, yeah, it went all the way down here, 2% below. So then in that case, you would be stopped out. Like in this case, that strategy would stop you out, and then it would fly up. However, in this case, the stop loss level would save you from a lot of discomfort because in order not to be shaken out during that pullback, you would have to operate with a 7.5% stop loss level on the non-leveraged SLV, and that is really getting wide. Let's quickly look at the minutes here. Seeing some consolidation. What are the news here? Is silver setting up for an explosive move higher? That's from bar chart, but that's 7 days ago. Let's just quickly look at the thesis. Okay, so what was the rationale here for why it should move higher? On July 6th, in my blah blah blah, most volatile seems a bit technical. Yeah, so this is interesting. So a gold-backed BRICS currency could ignite silver for 3 reasons. Gold and silver have long histories as financial assets, aside from their respective roles as industrial commodities. While both have historically been means of exchange or money, silver's use in the global financial system declined because of its price volatility. But central banks, governments, monetary authorities, and supranational institutions continue to validate gold's role. So okay, this is basically about gold. Yeah, I mean that's just widely known that gold is like the real quote unquote precious metal. A falling dollar tends to be bullish for the precious metal as the dollar is the pricing benchmark for silver. So let's quickly here look at the dollar index, DX, dollar index futures, weeklies. Yeah, but the dollar is on a move though. We do see some rally from the dollar. If we count a bit here though, during previous rallies, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks rally, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So based on the previous rallies in the dollar, we could see some pullback. Here are the dailies, flattening out a bit here. We see previously that when the dollar sort of runs out of fuel, like here and also here, it usually corrects, and we do see something a bit similar. So what is the seasonality for the dollar? A bit strong here to the left. August, I mean, the dollar usually has a good August. September isn't too shabby, at least recently. October is also relatively strong for the dollar. Let's just quickly compare the dollar and the silver asset pair. SLV. So in this case, we have the weeklies first. Let's look here at the UUP. Okay, because there can be some issues with the futures. Okay. So in this case, yeah, it's a bit noisy. Yeah. But yeah, overall, I do think that there's reasons to be bullish here on silver as long as it's able to stay above the red 200 week moving average. Pretty interesting level. So yeah, have a great week ahead.